All right, buddy. So, what's your name and where are you from for the people that might not already know?
Yeah, man, what's going on, bro? Once again, thank you for having me on the channel, bro. It's an honor. So everybody calls me EI the King. In short, everyone calls me EI. My real government name is Stephen Testa. I'm originally from Houston, Texas, but I grew up in Sarasota, Florida. So I'm raised in Florida, dog.
All right, you out in Florida
To
now?
be, yeah, I'm in Tampa right now. And to be specific, in Sarasota, man, South Venice, V-Town, Lower Bound. Yes,
Okay,
sir.
okay,
Yeah.
okay. So, man, I don't know where to begin with this. Well, I'm gonna let you tell me the beginning here in a second. But I remember seeing you in like I just got done telling you, seeing you in social media for a while now. I can't remember the first time, maybe a year or two ago. I think you were on the street with the boom box and all that stuff, and just
Yeah.
preaching the word, right?
Yeah.
I'm sure we'll get there here shortly, but anyways, that's when I first seen you, man. So I'm looking forward to hearing your story. I'll let you start off from the beginning, man. How did everything start escalating down the dark road for you?
Yeah, man. So long story short, like I said, I was born in Houston, Texas. My mother and my father, they were having a lot of problems when I was born. My father, just his side of the family, they got a lot of mental issues, a lot of this clinical depression. So at the time, obviously, I didn't know as a kid, my father was spiraling out of control in some deep depression. Him and my mother, got divorced. My mother left my father, took me and my sister. She's 3 years older than me. She took us from Houston. She moved us to Sarasota. So in Sarasota, that's one of the richest counties in Florida. And to be specific, like I said, in Sarasota, I'm from South Venice. So
Uh-huh.
that's like elderly retirementville. So when people hear my story and I've done over 12 years in prison, by the time I was 18 in prison the first time, by the time I was 23 in prison my third time, and this my appearance, braids, tattoos, and this coming from a street lifestyle, people would
Uh-huh.
automatically assume like I come from a poverty-stricken community, I come from a terrible upbringing, I come from the hood, and that's not the case at all. Like I said, man,
Okay.
like, even though like my father wasn't, in the home, coming up, we were like lower middle class. My mother struggled to raise me and my sister. She was a go-getter. My grandma pretty much raised me and my sister. So as a kid, man, as a child, my outlet was sports. I was always a leader. I was an athlete as a football player, captain of the team, captain of the defense. But I was always the shortest kid in every grade, the shortest kid on every football team. Hit puberty late. So I had a short man complex,
Uh-huh.
and
Yeah, yeah,
especially
yeah,
because
yeah.
my father not being there subconsciously, I think I felt less than and worthless and had to prove myself to everybody. So it led me to be overly aggressive and it led me to be like a communicator
Yeah.
and to really like lead naturally. I really started getting in trouble probably around like 13. You know what I mean? I began to get attracted to the street culture when I was younger. One of my best friends on the football team, his older brother was a dope boy. So
Oh
he was maybe
man.
like 5 years older than us. He used to come to the football game with a mouthful of golds, whole bunch of gold chains. And I'd seen how people would follow him. And like whatever he said, his word was law. And I
Mm-hmm.
was attracted to that as a leader. And of course, with the hip hop culture, I soon began to get attracted to the street lifestyle. And then around 13, started smoking weed, fighting a lot, just trying to prove myself to everybody. And that led to a slow spiral out of control. So I realized while I was smoking weed, not only could I smoke it for free by selling it, but then I realized I could also make, a lot of money selling drugs. So
Yeah.
by the age 13 and 14, started selling marijuana, cocaine pills. That just led me to really stop being focused in football, messed up my grades, made me ineligible in sports. And when I lost football, I lost my purpose. So I began to try to find my purpose in the streets and seeking for validation, acceptance, and fulfillment based upon other people view me, and that being like in a street lifestyle, So
How old are you now, man?
I'm 33.
33.
Yeah.
Man, I feel like I'm hearing my story right here,
Yeah.
right? Just flipped. I play baseball. You play football. It's
Yeah.
crazy though, man. It probably sounds like the majority of people's stories,
Yeah.
young guys' stories. You know what I mean? So what? How old were you when you left Texas?
I was 3. So I
You're
grew up
three,
yeah, I
three.
grew up in
Okay,
Florida.
okay.
Yeah.
So all you know for the most part is Florida.
Yeah, I used to
Uh,
go back every summer, but for the most part, man, like you said, all I know is Florida. I'm a
o-
Florida baby.
okay. What's your nationality, man?
I'm Italian.
Italian. Okay,
Yeah, but I'm a
okay.
generic Italian though. I wasn't raised like Mamma Mia, I want some pizza. You know, I'm a generic Italian.
Yeah.
I wasn't raised by that side of the family.
Okay, okay, okay. All right. So around 13, you're getting into mixed things. I mean, were your homeboys ever part of any kind of gangs or anything? Were you ever influenced by that? Were you ever you said you were kind of uh seeing your homeboy's older brother, dope boy, you looked up to him. Gang members back in the day, I ain't gonna lie, they looked pretty damn cool. The guys I was hanging out with, you know what I mean? Any of that for you?
Honestly, bro, like there, of course, there was people like in the circle, especially because I got expelled from high school. You know, my 10th grade year led me to like a
Damn.
second chance school, got expelled from there, third chance school.
What,
So in
fighting?
and throughout these second and third chance schools for fighting and just wilding out, just being a hot-headed jit. And so throughout like programs, juvenile programs, and through second chance schools, I came to gangbang. But personally, in my circle, like my friends' older brothers or my friends' older cousins who are all drug dealers, for the most part, they were all just dope boys.
Yeah.
And whenever I was young, hanging around them, they kind of instilled that in us, like, yo, we get money. You know what I mean? Like we stand on our own too and we get money. So kind of from like a young age, I was kind of taught that because that's not really like our environment. Like I said, we're from the suburbs.
Okay.
So everybody down there, like the drug addicts, they got
It's
money, they
pretty
got
chill.
businesses. Yeah, you know what I mean? So
Okay.
there's really no need for gang banging. So I really
Okay.
wasn't influenced by the gang culture now.
All right, all right, all right, all right. All right. So that's I'm guessing that's probably gonna play a big role stepping into lockup scene, huh?
Yeah,
I mean, from the reason that's why I'm asking all this, because from what I hear, I've had people come on the channel that's done some time in Florida prison system, man. They say it's like gangland, man. When you come in
of
there,
course. Yeah.
chances are, if you fit a certain bill, maybe to some other people, they're gonna go in and attack, man. So let's talk about that. Uh what was the initial crimes that sent you in there for the first time?
Yeah, yeah. So like I was saying, man, I was already in and out of juvenile programs. And all that was pretty much for like batteries and resisting arrest. I would always have drugs on me. The cops would pull me over or pull up on me and I run, I get rid of the drugs and they never find the dope. So the first time I went to prison, it was a robbery. It was a drug deal gone bad. It was a robbery case.
Mm.
At that point in time, I was selling a lot of cocaine. And I got real bad on powder for a little while, for like 6, 7 months, you know what I mean? While I'm, cooking dope, I'm keeping soft and I'm storing it. And I kind of got bad on powder for a while. So I wasn't thinking right. It was just a humbug situation and there was a lick caught up in the moment. And so I robbed a dude, behind, he was trying to buy some pounds of weed, robbed him. And it was in front of everybody. It was barefaced. It was
What do you mean?
stupid.
Like a 7-Eleven or what?
Nah, nah. So what happened was I don't want to mention the person who was involved. I
Oh,
took I
no, no,
took the
no, you're
charge
good.
for a female who I was close with at the time. I guess I could say it. The case it's my baby mama.
Oh,
So
okay.
yeah, so my BM kind of set up the lick on the humbug and because I stopped robbing whenever I was younger. I was just, chasing money. So she set up this robbery without me even knowing. You know what I mean? And she tells me like the last second, like, yo, by the way, I got these people coming over here and they want some,
Damn.
pounds of weed. I'm like, yo, we don't even got weed. What are you talking about? Like, we don't have
Damn.
weed. She's like, no, I'm finna rob them. And she's pregnant with my twins. She's pregnant with my twins, right? So I'm like, you're not finna rob
Who's the
nobody.
hustler here?
Yeah. But listen, that's the truth. But listen, my baby mama, she definitely was a dope girl. She was a
Yeah, it
go-getter. We had a
sounds like it for sure, bro. I ain't never had
yeah,
no girl setting nothing up like that for me, you know?
yeah. So
Oh,
yeah, we
that's
were definitely on
crazy.
some Bonnie and Clyde type stuff. And I was
Yeah.
mad at her because, even though I was throwing powder and I fell off for a little bit, we are getting back right. And it was just hot boy stuff. Why would you even set it up? Whatever. So the dude was already on the way over. So while he's on the way over, I'm like, she's pregnant. She's like 4 months pregnant with my
Uh-huh.
twins. I'm like, you're definitely not robbing nobody.
Mm-hmm.
So whenever he pulls up, like I said, it was within like minutes, she told me why he's coming over. So right when he pulls up,
Damn.
I beat the brakes off him, bro. And just barefaced right there in the yard.
Oh, shit.
I broke his whole eye socket. His whole eye socket caved in.
Oh,
While he fell to the
man.
ground, like I think
Violent robbery.
he seized in the shock. You know what I mean? To where he was like holding his pockets. And while he was holding his pockets, like the money was in his pockets and he couldn't let go. So while I'm trying to like pull his arms off his pockets, but he's like seized up and he can't let go of
Damn,
his
he
pocket.
locked on, holding on to the
Yeah,
money, man.
which makes me continue to like lean in on it, and I'm just
Oh
doom teeing
my
off on him.
god.
And like I said, man, I come from a violent past. I've done some crazy, a lot more crazy things than that
You're a little
before.
yacked up too, huh?
Yeah, well, I don't think at that time. No, at that time
No?
I stopped snorting powder.
Oh,
Yeah, and I
okay,
was able
okay.
to come back up.
All right,
So,
all right.
anyways, I didn't think it was that serious. You know, even though he was like unconscious on the concrete, robbed him, left, and yeah, man, like his cousin was there. His cousin was my dog's girlfriend, and they called the police and immediately.
So that's pretty brutal too, man. And look, from a
Yeah,
court's perspective, you know what I mean?
yeah,
First charge though, like you said,
yeah.
first as an adult.
Yeah, I
Uh
was 18. I just turned 18, man. I just got out of juvenile program maybe like 6 months prior.
oh,
So
okay, so wait, hold on. This was over illegal activities too. So this guy presses charges on you for trying to
robbery.
rob him for reefer.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It was a drug deal gone bad. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
but
So
he can still press charges even though everything was illegal
of
for the most
course,
part.
of course.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
just did a story on this the other day, man, on someone kind of the same situation. People
yeah,
gotta be careful with that. Just because it's illegal stuff, man, if it hits a fan, a lot of them people go with cops. You know what I mean?
yeah.
I mean, was he knocked out? Did he get up from the scene? Did someone have to call ambulance or what?
Yeah, the ambulance came. Right when I got the money, I took off running. So and there was a piece of wood involved in the incident as well, which there was never no proof of it. That got dropped. So the accusation was that he got hit with a 2x4 as well. So the original charges was aggravated battery with a deadly weapon, robbery with the weapon. But because there was no proof of the weapon in the case, they couldn't prove it while I was fighting it, taking it to trial, like taking it all the way till I go pick my jury.
That might
They
have
had no
spared
proof.
you some years, man.
Yeah, yeah, definitely did. They went from like 55 months down to 30. That's why they end up copping out at 30.
Yeah,
So yeah,
damn.
whenever I left, like I wasn't even worried about him. I was just trying to run and go, but I know he was on the ground like unconscious bleeding, and the ambulance had to come get him.
All right, so let's fast forward everything. They come and get you. How do they snag you up?
Yeah, they put warrants out, and I remember seeing myself on the news for the first time.
Oh
Uh,
man.
yeah, like I said, I'm 18, you know what I mean? But
Mhm.
I'm already institutionalized at a young age because I already did like juvenile detention and 2 juvenile programs. So I'm
Yeah, yeah.
already wilding out. Yeah, I remember my 18th birthday, my mom called me because I've, been moved out of the house like when I was like 16 or whatever. And my mom called me on my 18th birthday and she was like, just so you know, I'm not gonna bond you out. I'm like, dang, mom, like, thanks
She
for the happy
knew it was
birthday.
coming.
Yeah, she's like, no, I just want you to know you're 18. You're not a little kid no more. Like, whenever you get arrested again, you're going to prison,
Yeah.
and I'm not gonna bond you out. I'm like, all right, bet. And she was exactly right because it wasn't even, I think, maybe 2 months after when the arrest happened.
Damn.
So yeah, anyways, I actually turned myself in because I never turned myself in my life, bro. I was always known. I had multiple like fleeing and eludings. I was known for running. Like, man, I put the out high speed chases, bike rides as a kid, running
Yeah.
on foot. I ran from the police my whole life. But what happened was, like I said, I was on the news, and this is all the Lord really preparing me to receive salvation through faith in Jesus. I didn't know at the time, but my baby mom was pregnant. And my baby mom was pregnant, and I'm hiding out at like her mom's house. And her mom, who she'd been to prison like 3 times in the past, and she comes from a really crazy background as well. But within those years, like a couple years before that, she got saved. She gave her life to Jesus. So she's like ministering to me while I'm a hot-headed jit, really trying to get me out the street, sharing like the gospel with me, just like in subtle ways here and there. But she convinced me that I need to turn myself in and just bond out. You know what I mean? So that way I don't have a warrant and I'm always looking over my shoulder, So that's what I did, and I would never turn myself in, but she convinced me it was the best thing to do. And that's exactly what I did. I turned myself in. But little did I know God had a plan in the midst of me turning myself in because I had no idea how serious my charges were. I didn't know what charges I was being charged with. And I didn't, like I said, I'd done way worse stuff than this, like as a kid, you know what I mean? Even though that's kid is pretty serious, like really hurting somebody with my hands, but
Yeah.
I done way more like crazy stuff than that when I was a kid. I never got caught for it.
Yo.
So I didn't think it was that serious until I turned myself in the county jail. Everybody gets these tags, you know what I mean? And based upon the color of your tag is as serious as your charges. I don't know this. I ain't never been in the county before, and they give me a red tag. So everybody in the holding tank like, damn, bro, you got a red tag. You going up the road. So you going to prison.
Oh
So that's when I
man.
began to realize how serious it was. And they take me to a pod where everybody's got like murder charges and like armed robberies, and people already got a life sentence and they're back in the county jail fighting their case. Long story short, man, one of my cellies,
What
he was
county?
a
Well,
big,
I hate to stop you. What county
hey,
was
good,
this?
Sarasota County.
Sarasota. Okay.
So while I'm in the county jail, and we're in like a pod, I think it's like maybe like 8 people in the cell. It's like 3 different pods in one pod, so it's like 8-man cell. So the guy who I'm sleeping above, he's a big dope boy from another city. And I used to realize that like he never ate his trays, and he used to give his trays to everybody. He had a little bit of canteen, but I didn't realize why he wasn't eating his trays. I'm hot-headed, JIT, not friendly, don't want to talk to him or nobody. And he's always be in his Bible. So come to find out, he's a Christian and he's fasting all the time. So
Mhm.
after like a couple of nights in the county jail, he shares with me his testimony that while he was fighting his dope case, and he got like a big name in the street, so somebody I would listen to, somebody who would have influence on me. I'm
Yeah.
18, and I look up to guys like that, who are in the street. So, anyways, he shared with me his testimony how he gave his life to Jesus while he was fighting his case. And he had me read in the Gospel of Matthew, chapter 6, verse 24. No one could serve 2 masters. Either love the one, you hate the other. You cannot serve both God and money. And for the first time in my life, where I realized that he wasn't my God, Jesus wasn't my God was myself, my God was money. And I genuinely, authentically, already sick and tired of being institutionalized at a young age. My baby mama, I know I'm facing prison time, and I'm just spiraling out of control. And I know that I'm jacked up. And that night, you know what I mean, I genuinely committed my life to Jesus, man, and I received salvation. Um, but I tell people all the time with that conversion testimony story, the very next morning in the county jail, I got in a fight. And
Yeah.
I share that with my testimony because that fight, right after getting saved, became like a snapshot of how my spiritual journey would be. Really chaotic, very
Yeah.
inconsistent, and all over the
A
place.
lot of little
Just me running from
lot of little
God.
tests here and there, man, coming
Yeah.
your way for
So,
sure. Well, let me ask you this. Going into Sarasota, you already been through the system as a juvie a bit, so people probably leaving you alone. You didn't have no problem going into county, huh?
well, I mean, once again, too, Sarasota is one of the richest counties in Florida, so it's the
Yeah.
burb. You know
Yeah,
what I mean?
yeah.
So it's not like you hear some stories about like county jails to where it's wild.
So it's
You know
real
what I mean? But
nice.
yeah, Sarasota really wasn't wild at all. Don't get me wrong. Like with the pods where people are going to prison, of course, they're like robbing and fighting and things like that. But like you said, I already was used to JIT. I was used to not JIT camp, but I was used to the juvenile system,
Yeah.
juvenile programs. So for
Yeah.
the most part, man, yeah, like people just left me alone. I wasn't tried. But besides that day after I got saved, you know what I mean? He really didn't size me. He was just I was just in a bad mood. Really, I kind of started that. I was working out and the dude was staring at me and he's talking about these push-ups ain't gonna do nothing for you. Because back then, I'm still only 5'8", but I'm kind of cocky now because of prison time. But back then, I was super short. I was like 5'6", maybe like 115. So I'm a short, skinny white boy. I'm not all tatted up then, you know what I mean? So somebody who doesn't know me, you know what I mean? I just look at some small white boy, So he said something slick. And then yeah, I just told my dog something crazy about I hate people talking trash or whatever. And he heard me and he pulled up in the cell, got in my face and I just took off on him. And
Yeah.
yeah, so
How much time did you end up doing in county altogether?
yeah, right there, that time I only did a month and then I bonded out.
A
So
month.
I bonded out after a month. I think I snapped on the bondsman who I put a like down payment on before I was going in. I snapped on him on the phone and he like tried to teach me a lesson by not bonding me out
Oh
immediately.
man, that's
Yeah,
dirty.
dog.
Oh, he
Yeah.
let you wait a
But
day?
no, he let me wait like a week, I think. But you know what though?
Damn.
My baby mama's mom was friends with him. And she, like I said, man,
Oh.
she kind of read the whole play that was gonna be like a wake-up call for me. And she was praying for me to get saved. And that's exactly what happened, dog. So
Oh
while I
shoot.
was in there
Okay.
waiting to get bonded out, is when I gave my life to Jesus. So, anyways, I bond out, and within a week, I'm right back in the streets. I'm genuinely trying to follow Jesus now. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
like
Oh, I
for
know
real.
how it goes, man. I know how it
Yeah.
goes. Yeah.
Yeah, so I immediately got right back into the streets, man, selling dope. Immediately. I remember I still go to church on Sundays, but I had a pocket full of work. You know what I mean? Pocket
Yeah.
full of dope in my pocket. Get out of church, I feel terrible. Throw my dope in the woods. I wake up the next day, be like, why'd I
Go
do
get
that?
it.
I need money. You know what I mean? So So, anyways, I was smoking weed again, and I pissed dirty on the like supervised release. So whenever I pissed dirty, they had put out a warrant. I wasn't aware of it. Well, I knew I was aware of it. I just wasn't staying there because I was staying in hotels. But I went back to my apartment one night just thinking that they wouldn't come that morning, and then exactly what they did. You know what I mean? They kicked in the door. Before they kicked in the door, they were banging, so I was able to flush all my dope, and then thank God, he's merciful. They didn't find that. And they kicked in the door, I was arrested,
Yeah.
and then I went back to the county. And
Yeah.
then while I was fighting the case, I eventually had a plea out at 30 months. 30 months in and two years out. 30 months in and 24 months paper.
What was the like official charge? Just robbery?
Like I, yeah, officially, like I said, it was robbery with a deadly weapon. It was robbery with the weapon, no, aggravated battery with a deadly weapon, and a robbery with the weapon. But
Okay.
because there was no proof of the weapon as I was fighting the case, they dropped down the charge to just a simple robbery and a simple battery.
Yeah. Okay. Nice. All right. So, county, juvie, did it prepare you for prison?
Nah, dog.
How old
Nothing
were
could
you
prepare.
going into there?
I was 18.
18. Okay. Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
They ship you pretty quick out there. What? Florida, right?
Yeah, after you get
Sarasota.
sentenced from the county, you get shipped in within like 2 weeks normally.
Oh yeah, see man, we be sitting when I was in there in jail. They have us sitting there for like 10 months, man. You'd be
Dang. County
praying.
time's hard times.
You're
You waiting
praying
to
to
go off the
God
road.
for
Yeah.
prison.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right, so 2 weeks or so, you're going to the penitentiary, man. Tell me about it. How was it?
Yeah, so in the
JIT
county,
camps?
yeah. So in the prison,
Oh
in the
shit.
Florida prison system, you only got one prison, and that's FSP, Florida State Prison. And the rest of the prisons, I think they got like 80 something prisons. They're called camps. You know what I
Camps.
mean?
Yeah, yeah.
So all the camps, they're all based upon like security, housing. So you got some like level fives with like two gates and electric gate and all that. It all depends upon how classification classifies you whenever you go up the road or whenever you officially go to your reception center.
Yeah.
So while I'm in the county jail, I get sentenced as an adult at 18 years old.
Yeah.
So I'm in a pod with a whole bunch of convicts who already been up the road, so they're already
Yeah.
telling me, whenever you get sentenced to prison for your first time, you nervous, bro. Like you may have a game face on, like you're not scared, but inside you're terrified, bro.
Yeah,
You know
yeah,
what I mean?
yeah,
I don't care
yeah.
how gangster
Yeah,
you are.
you're
Everybody's
nervous.
nervous. Everybody's scared. So you're asking questions what to expect. So everybody's telling me, bro, you're 18, you're going to JIT camp, Gladiator school.
Yeah,
I'm like,
yeah.
bro, I wasn't sentenced as a youthful offender. I'm not
Oh
gonna go to
shit.
JIT camp. I don't want to go, So they're like, bro,
Uh,
you're 25 and under, you're going to JIT camp. So what do you know? My first day in prison, after the police are screaming at you and you got to get off the van, all shackled up. You already know the routine. They strip you down, standing there butt booty naked. You got 6'6" and slap a hole. They're slapping, people and screaming and getting in people's face and throwing them
so
against the
smacking them
ceiling.
on the head and all that stuff is
Some guy
all the
just
stuff
slapped him
I've
straight
heard.
across the face. You know what I mean? Like they don't care, bro.
You ain't never
Obviously it's
seen
your
them like
first day
rock
in.
them with straight fists.
I mean, I've seen police fight before. You know what I mean? They'll shoot up like straight up fades with
Yeah,
some inmates. And I think I've seen guys definitely get beat up with fists
yeah.
whenever like an inmate was wilding. But off the bus, nah. Normally when you get off the bus, they're just trying to break you in your first day.
Hold
So it's
on,
common.
man.
You'll
Hold
see
on,
them.
hold on.
Yeah,
I gotta really put myself
yeah.
into this atmosphere here, man. So is everybody getting smacked up, or is there
Nah,
anybody getting
nah.
spared?
Listen, the police pick faces, bro. Just like in the chain gang. You know what I
No,
mean?
they
Like
pick the
they'll-
weak ones, man.
man, they're gonna pick someone's face. They're gonna pick a face to where they know probably they're not gonna like turn up on them. But also too, they'll look for an excuse. So they'll give you instructions like when you get off the bus. You know what I mean? Like, no talking. Like they expect your face to be right at the gate or whatever.
Uh
So
huh.
they're waiting for somebody to do some type of infringement, some type of infraction in which they're not
Smack
listening.
his ass.
And they'll just slap the fire out of them. And they do that intentionally, probably with every bus, just to go ahead and like set the tone
They
for
probably love it,
everybody else.
man. They
Like,
probably
this is our
love it.
house. You know what I mean? They try to break people in.
That's a crazy
So,
ass life to live, man. Being someone doing
uh,
that to people every damn day, you know?
yeah, dog. And just to think of like being 18 years old or anybody, no matter how old you are, your first day in prison, standing there butt naked or in your boxers, squatting cough, already like dehumanized and degraded, and seeing the police snapping at everybody, slapping the fire out of people. You're like, dang, bro,
Yeah.
I'm in prison.
Well, did they mess with you any more than anyone else coming off the bus, or did they kind of?
I mean, whenever I got classified as a YO, like, look, right when you get off the bus, no one's classified yet. So I got spared coming off the bus. They didn't single me out or anything. But after you go inside the building, which takes hours, you're standing outside for hours. You gotta, you have to go to every person. You gotta go to like the nurse. You gotta get weighed. You gotta get your pictures taken. You got your property inventoried. You gotta go see mental health. All these people, and then the last thing you do is you go to laundry. And when you go to the laundry is when they give you your sets of blues. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? By the way, these are for the
Authentic?
viewers. Yeah, these are authentic Florida prison blues. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
yeah,
All this
yeah,
behind me, this is the authentic Florida chain gang
yeah, yeah,
canteen
yeah.
bag, all the prison pictures.
Oh
Yeah, whatever.
man.
So when they give you your blues, if you're a YO, a youthful offender, a JIT, they give you a red hat. And that's when you first realize like if you go into JIT camp or not. So the moment that you get a red hat, not only is it like judgment day for you, you know where you're going, but you're also now a target for all the police because the police treat the JITs entirely different. So the moment that I got that red hat, yeah, of course, I got singled out immediately by the police.
What was it like going into the cell block for the first time? Any groups, cliques, gangs, whatever you want to call it,
Yeah,
run up on you?
yeah.
You
So
know
so
what I mean?
look, so listen, once again, now you already hear the war stories that JIT came the county. So I'm terrified. I'm like, dang, dog.
Yeah.
I'm going to JIT camp. I swear I'm not gonna go. I'm gonna go to adult camp. So I already know what to expect. And I remember one of my OGs from the streets, my plug, somebody I used to get my dope from, he told me in the county. Because keep in mind, I got saved for real, even though I backslid, you know what I mean? But when I went back to the county, I got back right with the Lord. And I'm trying to lead a street lifestyle alone. You know what I mean? I really want to follow Jesus and be for real. But also, I'm not going to be pussy. I'm not going to let anybody disrespect me or take
Yeah.
advantage of me.
Yeah. Yeah.
So my OG told me he'd been in prison multiple times. Said, bro, listen, the first person that disrespects you, take off on them. Don't even say nothing. Just lean into them immediately. I don't want to do that, but I take that as law. If that's what I got to do to set the tone and prove myself, I'm gonna do it. And he's
Yeah.
like, also, don't be friendly. You know what I mean? Don't be in there being friendly. Don't click up with no gangs. You stand on your own too, and you handle your own as a man. So I took that to heart as well. So whenever they're taking us from like the intake and we got to march, as YOs, so we're marching with our red hats, to H dorm, hotel dorm. That's where the JITs are at. So you got Bay 1, Bay 2, and Bay 3, and they split up the bays based upon age. And the police, they intentionally know like what everyone's gonna do in the cell block whenever we're marching up. So the police purposely have us stand there in front of hotel dorm, just like waiting in line. And you hear everybody out the cell windows, oh, y'all gotta tighten up. Oh, y'all gotta, so they're all just screaming out. The tighten up means fight, so you
Uh-huh.
just hear all these jits screaming out the window, just calling out
Waiting for
everybody.
y'all.
Yeah, new cop, fresh meat.
Oh
Oh,
man,
y'all
that's
gotta
kind of
fight.
scary, bro.
Bro, terrifying. And especially because they're individually calling people out in line. They're like, yo, third white boy from the back, you pussy, you pussy. And
Oh
so they're
man.
already like calling people out. So my heart's beating. I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm gonna have to fight immediately.
Yeah.
And then, bro, my luck, I'm only 18, so I'm supposed to be going in Bay 1. That's like 18 and under. Bay 2 is like 19 to 22, I think, and then Bay 3 is like 22 to 25.
Mm-hmm.
And after 25, you go to adult camp if you're sentenced to YO, whatever. My luck, not only do I go to JIT camp, which I wasn't sentenced to the YO, which I end up going to JIT camp, but then they don't care about housing, bro. Sometimes they try to abide by it, but I'm a perfect example that they didn't care because they put me right in Bay 3, you know what I mean? Which is with
Yeah.
all the older JITs. And a lot of people in Bay 3 too have already been to like JIT camp. They've already been to their permanent institution and they're traveling to like another prison or whatever. So they're not green. They're not new cops. They're already
Yeah.
like have been built and structured from the chain gang. So I go in the cell and it's count time. So everybody's, you know what I mean, behind the door. And right when you walk in, Wild Wild West, it's like me and a couple other guys, inmates. So right when we walk in, it's kind of quiet, and you just see everybody on the glass, you know what I mean, looking at us all walk in. And you hear
Uh-huh.
some people hooting and hollering out the side of the crack. And
Was it
I
like a
remember,
little square window or something?
Yeah, every cell is two-man cells, so every, window's
Okay.
got like the
So
long
everyone
window that's got
crammed
like
up in
the
the
back
little
and the side.
windows. Okay.
So yeah, everybody's like standing on the window, like sizing everybody, looking all the new guys coming in. So I go in my cell, I'm talking to my cellie, he's cool, we're just vibing, talking. I'm asking a million questions because I'm nervous. So one of the main things you hear about JIT camp is like people getting hit with locks and
Yeah.
laps and gangs and all that. So I remember that was one of my first questions. He's like, yo, I asked him, I'm like, yo, people really get hit with locks and socks and all that? He's like, bro, I heard about it, but I never seen it. Come to find out, my very first day in prison at JIT camp, I'm the one that got hit with a lock.
Oh.
Yeah, so we go to chow, you know what I mean? I think right after that, during count time, we go to chow, we're marching back and forth. So everybody in the dorms, like looking at all the new guys, so everybody's filling us out, you know what I mean? So you're trying to be, keep it composed, you know what I mean? Keep it gangster, like unit on your face, mugging everybody, trying not to look friendly or scary or whatever. So when we come back to the dorm, there's this guy, and you can tell he just bangs by the way that like he was just like running the dorm. Right when we get back to the dorm, open bay, in the day room, he like turns off the TV with the broomstick and he starts calling out the whole dorm. I forget what he was raving and ranting about, but he's like calling everybody pussy and this and this and that. And he been a Bavard and he runs, he runs this dorm and he was just selling everybody out. He wasn't really calling anybody out specifically, but he was doing like a mass TOH.
Yeah,
He was
yeah.
just seeing who was gonna like, like snap on him for calling the whole dorm out.
Yeah.
So, anyways, while I'm sitting on the bench, I'm like, dang, this is gonna be the guy who tries me. So I'm thinking, I already made up in my mind, if this guy tries me, I'm just going to take off on him. So I'm thinking to myself, he's going to be the one who comes up and tries me. Well, turns out he doesn't. So he goes back, sit down, with all his brothers and his set and all that. And come to find out, because like I said, I'm super short, I'm super small. So he sends somebody to me. I don't know this at the time, but like I put two and two together after the fact. He sent one of his brothers to me while I'm on the bench, who's like my size, shorter, light-skinned black dude. So I'm sitting on the bench, and the dude comes up next to me, and he's standing over me. He's like, "Hey, Jit, slide." So I'm green. I don't know what slide means. I thought he meant like slide over on the bench. So I slide over on
Oh,
the bench, and
no.
he's like, "Nah, Jit. I mean, like tighten up." And I'm like, "What do you mean?" He's like, "Fight, Jit. You and me." So I look up. I don't even look. I just look up and just lean up and just take off on him. Boom. So right when I get up, I drop him. Boom. I hit him. He drops and he's like trying to stumble back up. They pull him back. So now I'm the one screaming and yelling in the dorm. Now I'm hyped. I'm like, I don't care about nothing. I'll fight anybody. Da, da, da.
Oh,
So now
man.
while I'm turning up, you know what I mean? Because I'm hot, I'm ready to fight anybody. So now I'm turning up. They hand him a lock and a sock. I don't realize that. I
Oh,
don't see it.
no.
So I don't realize I'm crashing out and that this is a bad move. You know what I mean? Like I come to find out later on, like what I'm doing is like no. You're not supposed to crash out. I don't
Yeah.
know this. I'm just trying to prove my point. So they hand him a lock and a sock, and he comes up to me again, and we square off kind of like in the middle of the dorm. And I take off on him again, and he jumps back and he pulls a lock and a sock out. He swings it. I weave the first one, and he swings it again. And right when he comes back up, it like hits my wrist. And if you got a lock in the sock, even if you double sock it, though, eventually the lock will rip through.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So the lock rips through the sock and it flies up and it hits the window of where like the officer station is. The police hear it. Everybody's telling us to sit down and chill. We're crashing out. Everyone's yelling at me for crashing out. Police come in. They immediately yoke me up, throw me against the wall, cuff me up. Anyways, and we go to confinement. So come to find out, I learned from this my first day in prison that what I did was like an ultimate no-no. It's like a crash dummy move.
Yeah, like
Like that
kind
was
of hollering and stuff and
well,
making a
not even that.
scene.
Yeah, I mean that too, but really just you don't fight openly. You know what I mean? You don't fight in the open
Oh, yeah,
dorm.
yeah,
You
yeah.
know
You
what I mean?
took flight
You
on him
fight
right
in the
there. Yeah,
cell,
that's right. That's
yeah, or
right.
you fight like in the bathroom in the
Yep.
cut. So I didn't know that. You know what I mean? I didn't realize that I was crashing out. I was just trying to set an example of the first person that disrespected me.
Yeah.
And really like turn up and take it there. So dumb move. So I ended up going to confinement. My first night in prison, I probably was only in the dorm and I crashed out. Probably like I said, man, we went to chow and right when we came back is when the dude tried me and I took off on him. I
Well,
crashed him.
well, you said you're not a part of no kind of organization or none. You're a neutron,
Yeah, I'm not banging
right?
at all. Neutron. Yeah.
Neutron, and that for anybody that doesn't might not already figured out what it is someone that doesn't partake in any gangs or anything like that inside of Florida prisons. So being a neutron, man, and you said dude was clicked up with someone or whatever. Did you have any repercussions later on down the road from getting into it with him, or was
From
it
that
kind of
set,
squashed or what? Yeah.
Actually, not actually. That fight actually helped me out. It was a good look for me,
Oh yeah.
and it followed me to my next bid, to my next prison.
Uh-huh.
Because whenever you crash out like at CFRC like that, and you're not even classified, they freaking took forever to classify me. They like intentionally drugged me while I was in confinement. So I was in confinement there for I think it was, 'cause like a fight in DR is only like 30 days. So I think I was in confinement there the whole time, but it took me like 2 weeks to even go to DR court. So I'm doing like dead time in DR court for those 2 weeks, in which they did that purposely to drag me, because they were pissed I crashed out. But anyways, I didn't even get out of confinement from there, because I finally got classified, and within like the 30 days, I get transferred to the river, which is Indian River.
Uh-huh.
That's 18 and younger. Now that's known for like Bavard and the river. Those are the two worst, like in the state of Florida, when it comes to JIT camp, the most notorious JIT camps, Indian River and Bavard.
So you leave
So
that JIT camp, go to another JIT camp.
so I go to my permanent because that's just reception. You got to
Oh,
get
okay.
classified.
Damn.
Yeah.
Okay. So
Yeah, so that was my first day. I'm in confinement. I got to get classified. I get classified, and while I'm still like under my DC time for my disciplinary action for fighting, I get transferred to like my permanent prison,
wearing
which
the
is
red hat the whole time.
yeah, which is the river. So the river is 18 and under, and like the majority of people there are 18, but the moment you turn 19, you get shipped to either Brevard or Lake City, what are two other like JIT camps. But the JITs who are under 18, a lot of these JITs, they got like 45 years life sentences, and they're just not at adult camp yet because they didn't turn 18. The
Mm-hmm.
moment they turn 18, they send them to an adult camp. So there's a lot of jitterbugs there with like life, triple life, you know what I mean? 45 years, 50 years for like, so that's why the river was so wild too. And because not only a lot of just with time, but because everybody's younger. So they're even more wild now.
Mm-hmm.
Get transferred to the river. Once again, still terrified, you know what I mean? Now I'm going to the river. It's even a known, crazy, notorious spot. I get off the bus, and I remember while we were marching the child, and like right when you get there, I think everybody gets orange hats. I forget. Like it's whenever you're new, new cock in your orientation dorm. So we're marching to Chow from the orientation dorm. And while we're marching, this dude's like sliding in between the lines while we're marching and takes off on somebody. Boom, drops him. And then like 7 people are jumping this dude in line, just beating the brakes off him. This first day now, couple first hours marching to the chow hall, and the police run up, all the police rush us. They pull out the Black Jesus, which is called, I guess they call it Black Jesus because it's a huge can of mace and it's black. And the
Yeah.
moment they spray, it's a riot can.
You get on your
Everyone screams for
knees.
Jesus immediately. Yeah, they cry out for Jesus immediately. So they pull out the Black Jesus. They lay everybody down. They don't spray it, so everybody gets down. Put your hands behind your head, face on the ground. So then the police, they call out the inmate's name who gets jumped, right? So they're like, yo, they're saying his name, like, you good? You good? He's like, yeah, I'm good. Then the freaking police tell everybody in the orientation margin saying, this is our pound, throws up a gang sign. The police throws up a gang sign and say, this is our pound. Tell the inmate who just gets jumped that he's straight, this is our pound, and that set runs this pound.
Damn.
Bro, police banging. You know what I mean? The police are banging the JIT camp.
Yeah.
Looking back now, I just think that it was probably like psychological manipulation on the police part. You know what I mean? That they probably get involved in like the affiliation of the sets at JIT camp because the guys
Kind
are
of
younger.
toy with everybody a bit.
Yeah, or even they're trying to like
Stir
calm
stuff
conflicts.
about maybe
Yeah,
or something.
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So anyways, I remember immediately whenever that happened, I remember looking at my dog and we're just laughing like, bro, this is crazy. Like the
Yeah.
police just threw up a gang sign saying that this is their pound. I think right after that, we go back to that. I think we didn't even get like fully classified yet, I don't think. And or like the intake through the beginning, or maybe it was before that. There's another thing I forget what happens chronologically, but it was that first like couple hours. We had to stop at the laundry there to get our blues, because when you get transferred, you don't take the blues with you. You got to get your permanent blues from that institution. And I remember we went to the laundry room, right? So the orderlies come out, inmates. They're like, which one of y'all, like, there's a gang of like a line of us. Oh yeah, by the way, I forgot. Let me not forget this. When we got off the bus, right when we get off the bus at the river, the police said, listen, y'all already know what to expect. This is the river. If you want to check in now. If you come at me later on today to any of my staff and try to check in, we were not taking you to confinement. If you think you're going to have problems at this institution, check in now. And I remember like 5 people immediately like raised their hand and they moved over in line and they checked in and they went protected
Damn.
custody because the river has that much of a reputation. You know what I mean? That for being crazy and these guys are terrified. So they check in. And of course, in my mind, it's not even an option, you know. So these guys check in, whatever. So then, like, so back forward to the store, we go to the laundry. The orderlies come out who are inmates. They ask the whole line of guys, which one of y'all want new blues? So everybody raise up their hand, like which one of y'all want visitation nights, creased up blues?
Yeah.
Everybody puts their hands. Then the orderlies say, all right, you got to fight for it. Keep your hand up if you're ready to grid. So
Oh,
everybody's hands,
orderly.
yeah,
Is it
everybody's hand goes
inmate?
down. Yeah, the
Okay,
orderly,
okay.
yeah.
Oh, okay. Trustee type dude. All right.
Yeah, yeah. So everybody's hands go down besides a couple guys. So the orderly said, then the Sarge comes out. The staff now, administration, Sarge comes
Oh
out from the laundry.
man.
He said, we got guys who want creased up blues. The inmates like, yeah, those 3 guys right there. So they're, oh, y'all ready to fight? And they're like, yeah. It's like, all right, come on, get in the grids. This is Sarge now, you know. So, so Sarge is cool with it. That's the type of culture was at this institution. The river was wild, bro. You know what I mean? The river was wild and the police were for it.
If I were to see that in a movie, I'd
Yeah.
say that movie is nothing like prison.
Yeah.
Oh, that's crazy. That shit don't happen nowhere for real in a lot of prisons across. I mean, a lot of places happen. You got little fight things like that. I've heard stories in other
Yeah.
states, but for the majority of them, bro, you ain't gonna see no sergeant come out there and say, "You let's get to fight for these blues, man." That's
Bro, listen,
crazy.
the river in general in Florida, like the police, dog, like the jitterbugs, oh wow, that JIT camp. But the police are just like, I don't want to spray and like, cause you know, I go into prisons now and speak, and I don't want
Yeah,
to speak
yeah, yeah,
anything bad on any of the
yeah.
Florida Department of Corrections. But the majority of the police at the JIT camp, bro, they were just as corrupt and they were with it. And it was entertainment for them, bro. You know what I mean? They're popping doors, they're organizing the fights, they're with it 100%. So the Sarge, you know, let them go back there, get in the grid. And then after all 3 of those guys grid one of the orderlies, they come out with a fresh set of creased up blues, you know? So once again, first day at the river. And so anyways,
I
going
mean,
on from that,
you ain't get severely injured yet, like any broken bones or anything getting in these
how
fights.
can, yeah, going on with my story, bro. Listen, I did over 12 years in prison.
Yeah.
This bid I did, that first bid I did 2.5, 29 months on 30.
Uh
Dog,
huh.
I got in 2 fights. That's it. And
Okay.
that's unheard of. And
Yeah.
I'll explain why, you know, here in a second. But yeah, bro, listen, I was blessed, dog. Ultimately the favor of God. But I think also too, for the most part, I grew up fast when I was young. So I was always around bigger, older dope boys when I was like younger. I was the first one selling drugs in my circle, in my city, and all that. So every prison that I went to, like at the river, like the head of the Bloods was like my dog. Like I knew him. He was like from my city. You know what I mean? So everywhere that I went, I already knew somebody who was like in some head of some gang. But ultimately, it was a favor of God, shielding me, protecting me, of course,
Yeah.
facts. But I think also too because I wasn't wilding out and I wasn't on that type of time. And like I said too, I already knew people who were gang affiliated and high in rank. Don't get me wrong, there are times where I had to swallow my pride and like walk away, you know, from situations to where I felt disrespected. And like the old me in the streets would want to fight and crash out, but I have to swallow my pride.
Yeah.
But my whole first bid, bro, I was never jumped. I was never robbed. I was approached a few times, you know what I mean, about breaking it off. That's a big thing in JIT camp, you know, extortion,
Yeah.
especially
Tell me
white
about
guys who
that.
are
Tell me about that, because I'm actually about to do a video on extortion here in a couple
extortion.
days.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So just to tie it all back in though to that first day with the fight, right? I had to go back to confinement because I'm not done with my DC time. I'm hoping that they would let me out because I get to my permanent prison, but like, nah, they take me back to jail. I got to finish my DC time. So whenever I get out of DC time, they got K3, which is known as the dungeon. So this is the worst dorm
Oh,
on
I
the
heard
pound.
about this place, man.
Yeah, yeah. So it's called K3. It's called the dungeon, and this is 2-man cells. The rest of the pound is like open bay dorms. So this is for like security for inmates. It means you got close custody. So all these jitterbugs got life, 45 years. I only got 2.5 years. I'm thinking I'm going to the pound. The pound's full. By my luck again, where did they put me? Right in the dungeon. I'm like, oh my gosh. You know what I mean? So they put me right in the chaos. There's fighting every day, people getting jumped, lads stabbed every day, extortion every day. So the common like culture of JIT camp, if you don't gangbang, And especially if you're white, a minority, you know what I mean? Like they're gonna approach you off the dribble and like, to extort you, they call it break it off.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
you got to break it off. But like I was getting at, as far as that fight really helped me out because the moment they let me out of confinement, I go in K3. Come to find out, my cellie was there. The cell that I go into, my cellie was there the day when I crashed that guy.
Oh, okay.
He was there
Okay.
at the reception center when I crashed that guy. So right when I walk into the dorm, he's like, hey, yelling out the cell, and he pops a door in his hand. He's like, man, what's up, dog? I remember. Da, da, da. So he's like, man, you beat the brakes off that dude. Da, da, da. That was crazy. You shouldn't have crashed out, but whatever. So we were linking, and come to find out, this guy is the head of a set on the compound. So immediately that was once again God's favor, God's sovereign orchestration, but it was also a blessing for me because normally right when guys get into the dorm, TOH, they got a grid immediately.
Yeah.
And just because, I was cool with him, nobody approached me. Like I wouldn't say it was because of his face, but also too, I was also outspoken about my faith. I was super serious with my faith, following Jesus. And I would really just trying to follow the Lord, man. And I'll be open, unashamed about, following Jesus, how God was transforming my life. And so, yeah, the whole time I was in the dungeon, bro, by the favor of God, not one fight, not anybody there ever tried me. No one ever tried to approach me or like extort me or nothing like that, even though it was crazy. I'm leading a Bible study in the dorm. We have like a Bible study every night in prayer call. So a lot of guys in prison, they will try to hide behind the Bible. Not a lot, but it's a common thing that some guys will go up the road or go to prison and they can play like the Jesus card. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? To where like they all of a sudden want to like put on this facade of they're following God and are following Jesus. And they think that it will protect them. And don't get me wrong, I guess it's kind of a good thing in a sense because even in the midst of their insincerity, God can still deal with them and God will still hopefully get a hold of them and make it authentic, right? That's how I've always kind of view it. But it's a
Yeah,
common thing
maybe.
that yeah, but it's a common thing that you see here, right? So and you can kind of discern that throughout the time. You can see people who are serious and who are authentic and genuine, and you can kind of tell the people who are pump faking. You know what I mean? They're
Mm-hmm.
trying to use it for whatever benefit they have. So, anyways, we're having prayer call, Bible study every night in the dorm. And I remember one night, my dog, who's the head of a certain set, not my cellie, another guy, like their set runs the compound. He's looking down at me, and I already know something's coming. And one by one, someone comes up and taps like each one of the guys like in Bible study, like on the shoulder, and they bring them up to the top tier. And I look up there and they got all them boys like one by one now. They like a whole mob of people like circling them and they're putting down all of them. You know what I mean? Like you got to break it off. Telling everybody they got to break it off. And
Damn.
it blew you know what I mean? I remember like pulling up on my dog, like, bro, like let them boys be. You know what I mean? They're good. They're genuinely like following Jesus, whatever. And some of them would buck, you know what I mean? And they wouldn't break it off and they fight and they get in the grid and they're good. Some guys would cave and they would agree to the extortion and now they got to pay rent. But honestly, the majority of my first bid while at JIT camp, because I turned 19, you get transferred to another prison, which is Lake City. The majority of my first bid while at JIT camp, it was crazy. I seen a lot of riots, people getting jumped, latched, extorted day in and day out. That's the norm. People getting hit with locks, stabbed. That's the norm. But in the midst of all of that, not only did God shield me and protect me for the most part, but God also used me. And that's what I kind of like naturally began to be used by the Lord. Like I said, dog, like I'm not from the trenches or from the worst part of the worst city or wherever, but I was in the streets and I've always been a leader. So naturally, as I began to follow Jesus, God began to use me, even in the midst of those chaotic environments to like try to like mediate peace and still like minister to the guys who are gangbanging and wilding out. And I really had a lot of opportunity and a lot of access in these guys' lives who are wilding to really like try to encourage them to see Jesus. And plus too, I was a rapper, you know what I mean? And I had goals in my mouth, like 18. That wasn't common for like young bucks to have gold in their mouth or whatever. So I was pretty influential, you know what I mean, throughout my first bid even at JIT camp to where it was crazy. To where me personally, I really didn't have to face a lot of drama and conflict, but I was kind of able to like navigate through it to not only survive, but actually be able to do ministry and try to impact people at the same time, you know.
Yeah.
But I
Yeah.
did get tried though at the second bid. I did get stepped down on excuse me, not the second prison I went to at JIT camp.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I
Yeah.
mean,
They approached.
how'd you end up going back the second damn time?
Yeah, I got out. Real quick, let me say this, and I'm gonna answer that, right?
Okay.
I tell people all the time about the Florida prison system, or I think this prison in general. Everybody can have a different prison experience. It's based upon how you conduct yourself as a man and really like how you do your time. You know what I mean? I think really that's what it boils down. Don't get me wrong. Now you go to some prisons, and I've been to some of the worst prisons in the state of Florida, but I've also seen people who you wouldn't think that they should be able to survive there, but they're just authentically being themselves. They're staying out the
Just
way.
chilling.
They're not causing no harm. You know what I mean? They just lay back in the cut doing time. So at the end of the day, it all depends upon like who you are as an individual and how you do your time. If you gang banging out and you wilding, you're gonna get that. You know what I mean? Them boys are killing every day, stabbing, robbing every day. Or if you look like you terrified and you shark bait, them boys gonna run down on you, and you're gonna be
Yeah.
shark bait.
Yeah.
So I just think it all depends how you carry yourself. So, anyways, I get out my first bid.
Two and a
I'm authentic.
half. 2.5 was your first one, right?
Yeah, 2.5. Yeah, 2.5. At the end of the bid, I go to work release. In the state of Florida, when you get to 14 months or less, you get to go to a minimum security prison, and you get to go work in outside society
Yeah.
and come back. So I went to work release. I backslid at work release in my walk with the Lord. I started smoking like Tunchi and K2 and
Oh
started getting,
shit.
yeah, started thinking about this is before it was crazy. So I'm thinking about getting out, going back to the streets. I'm just tripping spiritually. I'm backsliding, and I get caught going to the beach. Well, I didn't go to the beach. I tried to go to the beach. We went to work. Our boss wasn't there, so we deviate and we go downtown St. Pete. We show back up at the work release center. Come to find out, they checked our work while we were gone and went back to prison. They even hit us with an outside charge. They gave us an outside escape charge, but
Damn.
they did it just to crack down on guys who were deviating.
Doing
But
it. Yeah.
they really just did it to scare us because we didn't escape. We didn't jump the fence. So they just sent us to the county jail and they sent us back to prison. The escape charge didn't stick. So then I went to adult prison that first bit at the very end, the last 4 months. I went to an adult camp and I went to a lifer dorm at that. I was 20 and they sent me to a lifer dorm because I had to escape DR. So they sent me to I was at Hamilton. So they sent me to a T building, 2-man cell. Everybody in there had life, a whole bunch of time. The police, when I'm a jitterbug. I'm like 20. I still look young. He's like, yo, you know where you're going, right? I'm like, yeah, I dorm. He goes, nah, like, but that's like a lifer dorm, right? I'm like, bro, I don't care. I was just at JIT camp, bro. I seen the worst. So
Yeah.
I wasn't even worried about adult camp because you
Yeah.
already know how crazy JIT camp is. So, anyways, I get released from there 4 months later. Um, and then I get out and I'm trying to do good. I'm trying to go to church. I'm trying to follow Jesus. I get back focused. Man, I just begin to get attracted to the street lifestyle again. A lot of my dogs who used to get dope from me, or I seen them, they were doing bigger and beyond what I was doing when I was in the streets. So I just wanted my spot back. I wanted to go back to the streets and try to chase after that street fantasy and seek validation and fulfillment through all that street prestige, which is a lie. So long story short, within 8 months, I was driving and I had a whole bunch of loud, whole bunch of eggs, whole bunch of dope, hard and soft in the car. I'm going to my apartment to drop all this dope off because I'm going to the strip club with my dog. Police get behind us, they put the lights on, and I put them on a high-speed chase. I can't pull over all the drugs in the car. So I put them on a high-speed chase. I lose them in the back streets. I get rid of all the drugs. And then I crash my car while I'm going fast around the corner. I come back into 41 and didn't realize it was 41. Crashed into the curve, airbag deployed. I jump out the car and running for like 2, 3 hours. They got the helicopters, they got the dogs. They finally find me. I only get charged with fleeing and eluding from the high-speed chase. They gave me like 6 months for that in the county time. They didn't find no drugs.
Oh
Supposedly I had drugs.
shit.
And then, but I went back to prison because it was a violation of probation.
Oh
So I was
yeah.
sentenced to 2 years in prison for the violation of probation.
Damn. Well, how was that compared to the first time?
The second time, man, I got sentenced to less amount of time the first time, so I already knew what to expect going in, and of course, I wasn't going to JIT camp, so I just wanted to really just go in there and lay down. I felt so ashamed. I felt so fake. I felt so hypocritical because my experience with Jesus was real. My faith was real. I was never hiding behind it. I was genuinely pursuing Jesus, but I felt fake because I got out and I went back to the streets. And really, that wasn't me anymore. You know what I mean? So I felt ashamed of like backsliding, being unfaithful unto the Lord. So I got back right in the county jail, focused again on Jesus, trying to really like process why I backslid and, mature and learn from that. So I knew going back into the prison the second time, it was just going to be a quick vacay. I was already used to doing time, like I said, institutionalized from juvenile programs. And then I already going to prison for the first time at 18. While my graduating class is walking down, getting their high school diplomas, I'm walking down prison hallways, getting my GED in prison. So I was used to it. And I had less time. So I'm like, all right, I'm going to lay up. I'm going to work out, stay out the way, and go home. And that's exactly what it was. I did get in one fight that bid. I crashed out my home team on the rec yard. I didn't even mean to. Again,
What?
I already know better than crashing out. I was freaking. It was just a spur of the moment. It was my homie. It was actually my dog. We were friends. We weren't
Uh-huh.
that cool, but he was my home team. Like in prison, you click up with your home team.
Yeah, yeah.
So I asked him to hold my radio while I'm playing softball, and I look over while he's my radio, my nice headphones is laying around, and like anybody could steal it. It's just sitting on the side of the concrete. He's not even paying attention.
Yeah.
So I kind of checked him about like not holding on to my radio. And while I snapped on him, I walked away, and I did it in front of his homie. And I guess like he felt sized that I sized him in front of his homie. So he approached me while I was on the softball field, like, "Yo, I ain't like that aggression." Da, 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 da. And he was like trying to like step to me. So I just didn't like his energy and the way he was coming at me. So I just saw red and just took off on him. And then I
Yeah.
just took off on him. But I was dumb though, because the rec yard sergeant was right there. And this is when I get hit with the black Jesus for real. So I take off on him, I hit him, and I'm trying to like he like falls back and I'm trying to take off on him. The rec yard sergeant was sitting out there on the bench. I didn't even see him. So he just takes the black Jesus, the riot can. I think it's security line too. He runs like the compound, pulls it off his belt. Black Jesus, now a riot can, hits me dead in the face. Hits me. So when I hit the ground, this man is unleashing the riot can on me. And he hits him, but he barely hits him.
Yeah.
He's taking it out on me because I was the aggressor. A riot can was something serious, man. By the favor of God, the police, while they cuffed me up, listen, I can't breathe. My throat shuts. So he can hear me like, bro, the police is running me to confinement. I ain't never seen the police really run to somebody to confinement. He's like jogging with me. I'm like, thank God. So they throw me in confinement, put me in the shower, and they got to videotape it. That's like the procedure when someone
Yeah.
gets
Yeah.
sprayed. So they videotaping me in the shower. I'm crying, screaming, and the
Yeah.
water's hot. I didn't realize the hot water makes it even worse.
Yeah.
They should have gave me that video whenever I released, because that would have been a crazy souvenir. I'm in there screaming, crying.
Yeah.
So that was the second bid. I did the 20 months off 24. I get out. And then for the first time in my life, bro, I'm doing good. You know what I mean? I'm going to church. I'm following Jesus. I'm really trying to, and during like the first and second bid, I come across guys like, because like I said, the end of the first bid, I was in a lifer dorm. So I was around a lot of mature brothers in Christ who had life sentences, and they were really walking their faith walk out.
Yeah.
And, they were pouring into me, discipling me. So I was growing in faith and in my spiritual journey with Jesus, like the first bid and the second bid. So when I get out the second time, I'm starting to get like my bearings. I'm starting to like follow Jesus. I'm going to church. I'm trying to get plugged in the Christian community and do the right thing for the first time in my life. I'm not selling drugs. I'm not in the streets. I'm working. I start roofing. You know what I mean? I got kids. My kids were born when I was in prison the first time. I got twins, a boy and a girl. So I'm trying to be there actively for my kids and do the right thing. But slowly but surely, man, I get bored like with just working and going to church. And I soon began to mess with a whole bunch of girls. And rather than hanging out with my dogs from the streets, I start hanging out with my old football friends. And they
Uh-huh.
all graduated from college. So they're like, some of them are back in the city, and they're like ex-frat boys. So they drinking all the time and hanging out and going out clubbing. I never really experienced that because I grew up in prison.
Yeah.
And when I was in the streets, I would go to the club occasionally, but I was more so in the streets, chasing money. So I never the nightlife. So I started going out on the weekends with my dogs. And that kind of led to a pattern to where I go out clubbing, going out to strip clubs, traveling for the first time, going like up north and all that. And that led me to begin to stray from the Lord. Not to where I'm wilding out, going back to the streets, but just I'm not living fully right
Yeah.
like I
Yeah.
should be unto the Lord. And then one night I was only out for 6 months, bro. We're at this club in Sarasota called Beach Club. To this day, bro, to this day, I have barely any memory of the entire night. I just have flashes. That's it. So apparently, I get in a fight in the club. I get kicked out of the club because I'm drunk. And then I get another fight in the parking lot. I knock this dude unconscious in the parking lot. And when I'm leaving the scene, the police officer, they said the paperwork says that I tried to gun down an officer on my vehicle, that he pulled out his firearm, was telling me to get outside the car. I revved the engine and I floor it and I hit him. He hits the vehicle. He pulls it. He's trying to shoot me through the windshield while I fly him off the car, spin the wheel. He flies off. I get in a high speed chase. Come to find out, bro, none of that happened. I don't remember any of this, so I couldn't recollect any of it. But people on the strip, people who've seen it, what happened was while I was leaving the scene, the police officer was walking in front of the road trying to tell me to stop. And I guess I didn't see him and I was trying to swerve out the way and I nipped his leg. I barely hit him. But anyways, I get in a high-speed chase. They're chasing me. There's these huge palm trees. They're like this thick, 2 stories high. I deroot two of them, going, I guess, like 80,
Damn.
90. My airbag deployed. Excuse me, my airbag didn't deploy. My seatbelt snapped and I was ejected from the windshield. My femur snapped through my thigh. It snapped through my thigh. They found me unconscious so many feet away from the vehicle. I had to get bay-flighted. And I wake up in the hospital 3 days later, bro, and I see you. And I have no idea what happened. Dog, I'm talking about, and there's police in the room, and I'm cuffed to a bed. Three
You
days
don't
later, I
even
had
really remember going through the
no, I
window or
don't
nothing,
remember
huh?
anything, bro. I don't remember anything. I'm terrified. I thought I got in a car accident. So I'm asking the cops, I'm barely coming to. I'm like, what happened? They said, man, you're about to get a life sentence. That's all they're saying. They're not telling
Oh
me, they're
God.
not telling me anything. So I'm terrified. I keep like waking up in and out of consciousness. The nurse comes in. I'm like, what happened? What happened? And she's like, you got in a car accident. I'm like, what about, like, I'm asking about my dogs. Like, what happened to them? Are they okay? She's like, you were by yourself. I mean, what about the people I hit? I'm like, are they okay? She's like, you didn't hit anybody. You hit a tree. I'm like, dang. So that's the first time. So, anyways, then the detective comes in my room, like I think the next day, and right when he walks in, I'm like, yo, I don't got no rap. I don't want to say nothing. So he stays in the room talking to the cops. And while he stays in the room, he's probably doing it trying to like taunt me to talk or whatever, to like make a statement. Because while he's in the room, he's telling the cops like the whole play of what happened that night. So while I'm laying in a hospital bed listening to the detective like tell the cops like the play by play of what happened was the first time, after like 4 or 5 days that I found out like what happened and what I was being accused of hitting a police
Dang.
officer with my vehicle. Yep. So I was in the county jail. I was charged with aggravated assault with the no, not a deadly weapon, aggravated assault on a law enforcement officer, aggravated battery on a law enforcement officer, fleeing and eluding, aggravated battery on a civilian. So it's all like charges against Leos.
Mm-hmm.
So, man, I'm thinking I'm finna get 25 years because in the state of Florida, man, if you get released from prison and if you commit any violent crimes within, I think it's a 5 year period, you get which is called PRR, like Prison Release Act or whatever. And they immediately give you like 15 years. It's like it enhances your points in the point system in the courts. Or you can get HVO, which is habitual violent offender. So
Yeah.
I was 23. I was already facing my third prison bid. So I swear I'm about to get hung. You know what I mean? I'm thinking my life is over with. I'm at least looking at 25, so
Yeah.
but anyways, because they kind of knew, I'm sure that the case was Bo Rickle, that I just barely, bro, the cop has minor abrasions to his leg. He had no like personal injuries or whatever. He had like a bruise on his leg. I nipped his leg apparently whenever I was like leaving the scene. But because, my priors, they gave me the lowest minimum, which I scored out of 66 years. I was facing 66 years. My lawyer said, listen, if you don't take the one and only offer, which is 9 years, they're going to HVO you or they'll PR you and they're going to hang you. So you better just take these 9 years because that's the one and only plea deal you got. It's the lowest permissible. So take the 9. So I had to take the 9, bro. So
Mm.
23 years old, and I get sentenced to 9 years, my last bid. So, and I did 7 years and 8 months on this last bid. Yeah. But then I tell people all the time too, you approach time differently when you get sentenced to a big amount of time. Like the
Oh
first
yeah,
two
you do.
times,
You
the
got you
first two
got you
times,
got to play it like for the long ride. You know what I mean?
yeah. Because you're not worried about the streets no more, bro. You're worried about when the menu's
Nah.
changing. You're worried about when they're opening up yard. You know what I mean? And you're here to stay for a while. And don't get me wrong, 9 years
Laying
is
it
still
down,
nothing.
man.
Yeah, it's still 9 years is nothing compared to guys who are doing like decades upon decades, but still you approach the time different.
Now,
So,
9 clips straight, that's a hike, man. You know what I mean?
yeah.
I'm damn. The third time going in, you're probably drunk as hell, huh? Just not really feeling too good, especially after 9 clip. Where you just did you put in your mind you're gonna get it done and over with, and
No, I was
that's
thinking
about
about committing
it.
suicide.
Yeah,
I was contemplating suicide. I was wilding, bro. I was mad at God. I was mad at myself. And bro, my kids were 2 years old at the time. No, excuse me, they were four. From 18 to 31, I've done over 12 years in prison, and I was only out for 14 months. So bro, I knew that I was gonna miss the entirety of my kids' lives, childhood. I knew that I was gonna miss all of my 20s. And I just felt again so fake and so flawed and hypocritical of my consistent unfaithfulness unto the Lord. I was just miserable, dog. So while I had a broken leg, I was in a wheelchair. I had to learn how to walk again and all that, like in the county jail. I ended up catching the outside case because I beat up a guy over the phone. He tried to double back on the phone. I ain't having it. I got nothing to lose. I just beat him up in the cell. He snitches on me whenever he goes to visitation. I end up going to confinement and catch an outside charge, battering a detainee. So I remember while I was in confinement, and I got sentenced during that time. I accepted my plea deal, and I remember I didn't eat for days. And I remember just laying in the bunk, you know what I mean? Just like really just letting everything weigh on me. And I remember for the first time in my life, bro, I was really contemplating about like, dog, like I used to always believe a lie that a tiger will never change his stripes. That this is all I know. It's all I'm ever gonna be. And just feeling all the shame and disgust, man, I was really just for days, laying in that cell, laying in that bunk, contemplating about just ending it all. Like, let me do everybody else a favor and let me just stop this. And yeah, thank God, I didn't. But I remember that's probably the most depressed and the most suicidal I've ever been in my life. So
yeah. Was that like shortly after getting to 9, or right after that?
say it again.
Was that like shortly right after getting the 9 years, or saying you're
Yeah, yeah, it was right when I got sentenced. It was
yeah,
right when I got sentenced.
yeah,
Yeah, because it hits you when it gets sentenced.
yeah,
While I'm in there, I know I'm taking the plea. I know this. While I think I was in the county for 5 months. So I was in there knowing I was taking the plea whenever they came with the first and only offer. But then whenever you leave the sentencing, that's like when it hit home. And plus too, like I said, I was in confinement, for the fight or whatever. Yeah, and that's when it was really weighing in on me, dog.
yeah,
So when I first went back up to prison this third time, I didn't immediately get back surrendered unto the Lord. I'm like, man, I'm finna thug this one out, bro. You know what I mean? I'm finna come up here and try to have sex with as many female officers as I can. I'm gonna smoke as much weed as I want. You know what I mean? I was never on that gangbanging type stuff, so I wasn't like trying to do that type of stuff. But
have
I'm finna
fun.
hang out.
Yeah,
Yeah, I'm finna hang out. What's the point?
yeah,
And so that's what I was doing at the beginning of my bid, but that didn't last long. Maybe after like 4 or 5 months of like smoking weed and smoking K2. I really didn't smoke K2 that much then because K2 was getting serious.
yeah,
That's when people are screaming, twacking out, going crazy.
yeah,
Um, but yeah, of course, my number one aim was always trying to talk to the female officers and, trying to finesse them and get food and, trying to be romantic and sexual and all that. So that's how I approached and started that third bid.
mm-hmm.
Uh, but just like God, man, when he has a call on your life and when it's real, like it's not, it's when are you going to get it right? And once again, man, I was just feeling miserable. I was depressed. I was just hurt and I was broken. And I knew that fulfillment only comes through Jesus. And again, and that time more than ever, I was always genuine. I was always sincere. I was always authentic in my faith walk with Christ. But then it's like it hit different. I think not just because the amount of time, but because I knew that I couldn't get it right on my own. But whenever I was following Jesus, I'd be good. You know what I mean? So to me, that was enough proof that like this is what it is. Like God has a call on my life, and I only do good when I'm following Him. So, but the third bid was different than all of them, and the reason why is because, like I said, the first two bids I was discipled more by other mature guys in the faith. But around this time, God really began to put a fire and a desire in me to be used by Him. So my whole third bid, man, that whole 7 years and 8 months, it was a missionary journey. I was at 4 different prisons, and I was blessed with the opportunity to plant, establish, and pastor and lead 4 inmate-led churches. and we're getting it in. And this ain't no play, kumbaya Christianity. Like we're really like putting in work for the kingdom. We're preaching on the rec yard, you know what I mean, in gangland, under the pavilions where they're having gang meetings. And I think that third bit is when I really realized God's call on my life. Everything began to make sense because I was always a leader, like in football and in the streets. And I began to see this third bit as my faith walk began to get more serious. I began to see that God gave me influence and that God began to lay. And I've seen a lot of guys would gravitate towards me. And I seen a lot of these guys who would be gangbanging and wilding out, and they'd be in the middle of a war, or bro, just wet somebody up. They're coming to me venting about this stuff. Like, bro, I don't want to be doing this. I know like God got more for me. And I seen how God would just use me naturally and intentionally throughout ministry to really reach the streets with the gospel. So my whole third prison bid, dog, like of course it sucked. It was a stretch. It was a long bid. But really God began to show me the purpose he had upon my life. And when I began to walk in that, man, the whole prison bid changed. It was ministry the whole time, bro. Prayer call every night, Bible study every week, leadership meetings. We're evangelizing on the rec yard. We're preaching on the rec yard. God opened up doors for me. I'm able to preach in the chapel. And plus, too, I was a rapper. So I would always write music, you know what I mean,
Yeah,
while I
man. I've
was
been listening to
incarcerated.
some of your music lately too. It's pretty good, man.
Yeah, appreciate it, man.
Yeah, yeah.
So, so yeah, while I was incarcerated, that third bit, man, one of my dogs, uh, I watched the Lord completely transform his life. He gets saved, give his life to Jesus, and he was like my right hand man in ministry. He was leading the worship and doing a lot of evangelism stuff. I watched the Lord transform his life. He gets out within 3 months, he backslides and gets shot and killed, and that really rocked me, man,
Mm.
because I was so like mad at God. I didn't understand why God let him backslide and get killed, and God really used his death to bring forth life in me and to give me vision for everything that I'm doing now. So God showed me while I was in prison because I used to like they, like in prison, like in the dorm, like they'd be having like jitterbugs be beating on the wall or on the bunk or the locker, and there'd be a big cipher, everyone's freestyling, rapping. So these guys, everyone's rapping about shoot 'em up, bang, bang, trap stuff. God would stir me up to go in the middle of these ciphers, but I'm spitting the gospel, some real street stuff too about my life and my experience, but how God transformed my life and brought me out of it. And I seen how people gravitate towards it, and God began to use me in music too, right? So through his death, my dog's death, God showed me that upon release, he was going to use music as a platform to reach the streets with the gospel and to scale ministry. So God gave me this crazy huge vision while I was in prison. So now check this out. Upon my release from prison, my first song that came out with one of my favorite artists while I was in prison, who he follows Jesus as well. That first song got me signed by the second biggest Christian hip hop label in the nation. And before I even got out, while I was at work release, I went viral, because at work release, you can go
Damn.
to work, and you're not supposed to be on social media. You're not even supposed to really have a smartphone. But I had an iPhone like put up in my locker at work. So I
Mm-hmm.
used to always post like content while I was at work and everything. So I go viral on TikTok. I get like 1 million views off of one stupid video about like prison food. And that really started getting me like some motion on social media. So all these big Christian hip hop rappers see my story, and I'm like kind of documenting my story while I'm in prison. Like, cause bro, while I was in prison, I'm telling you, God gave me a vision. I started having phone calls recorded while I was in prison because I wanted to film a documentary about my release and my transition from prison to society and my transition from the streets to follow Jesus. So I had my dog record prison phone calls while I was on the prison phone. And also too, in the state of Florida, they got kiosks in the dorm now to where you can send videograms and have video visitation. So I would send those home, like I would send them out and I would get recorded so that way I could narrate my prison journey. I'm having all these videograms about me talking about my time in the process because I wanted to film a documentary when I got out. So all this stuff is a vision that God gave me when I had years left. So when I go to work release, I post stuff on social media, I'm documenting my journey. It starts getting some traction. A lot of these big Christian hip hop artists who I'm listening to while I'm in prison, they come to find out my story. They start following me. And like I said, that first song that I released, that got me signed to the second biggest Christian hip hop label in the nation with the distribution deal. And God began to establish the platform for me overnight. And so ever since then, bro, it's been crazy. God's been fulfilling that vision to the T and beyond. And what that looks like, the ministry is called Block Hustle. And the label is called Block Hustle Entertainment. I have my own label now. And what we do is, man, we travel throughout the nation. And now I go into prisons, bro. The first prison I went to was Mississippi State Prison, Parchman. You ever seen Life
Oh
with
man, yeah, yeah.
Eddie
I know
Murphy
quite a bit
and
about. Yeah.
yeah, Martin Lawrence. So that was the first prison I went to when I came home. I went there with music and like ministry called Track Stars from Atlanta. So we went in there to death row, and I was able to, share my story, minister, and perform. And I wrote my entire first album that's out now. I wrote that while I was in prison, majority of it. So it's coming from a place of incarceration. It's me venting about my pain, things I'm dealing with. But now it's crazy that I can go back into these prisons and not only like, share my story and see how it impacts them, and God uses that to minister to them. But when they hear the lyrics, and how it resonates with them, because I wrote it from a place of incarceration, and it's specifically detailed and catered to them and their situation in which they're going through. So that was the first prison thing. And ever since then, bro, it's exploded. Now, 2 years, I've been home a little over 2 years now. And now, by the favor of God, bro, we travel throughout the nation. I've been to San Quentin. I've been to prisons in Texas. I've been to prisons in Nebraska. I've been to county jail in
And
Alabama.
you
I've
got
been to,
violent charges on your record.
bro, listen, favor of God, dog. Listen, wardens hit me with emails all the time, and they roll out the red carpet for us, bro. So in our ministry, in our
I
block,
tried,
and the
like
block,
I told you in the beginning, man. I tried numerous times to get into places, man. No one ever gives me a shot. I don't
bro,
know.
we'll
Maybe
bring
it's
you in,
because I
bro.
ain't got no one with me, man. Just kind of solo, you know.
Yeah. So especially whenever you go in with the ministry, or like we have a nonprofit 501c3, block hustle. So, and we're all convicts. Everybody on the team. Big Lou, my dog did 21 years state. My dog Trap, 11 years. All of us are convicts, man. So, and also what's crazy too, now I'm on a podcast. Shout out to Mama Eve and Real Vita Nation. In the prison all throughout the nation, they got tablets now.
Yeah.
So like all my homies in prison, all my dogs doing life, they hear what I'm doing out here in the streets. We not only do we do prison ministry, but we go to hoods throughout the nation. And we go to the most poverty-stricken, crazy, wild parts of whatever city we're in, and we just go to the trenches where they're selling dope, posted up at, when they posted up with guns, gang banging, we go right in the thick of it, and we go out there and we share our story, we share the gospel, we love on people, pray for people, we pass out groceries, and then we end that evening with like a concert, and we use like our music to minister the gospel, we preach the gospel, we make disciples, man. That's the whole
That's
aim, church in
amazing,
the street.
man.
Yeah, man.
It's an
But
amazing thing.
so it was crazy. My dogs would hear about it while they're in a prison. But then I got put on this podcast, which is on their tablets, and now they're able to see my music videos while they're in prison. So at first, it's just cool for me that my dogs can see it, because these are my dogs, man. They did years in the chain gang. I grew
Yeah.
up in prison. So
Yeah.
these are like my big homies, or like just my dogs that did years with. So it's cool that they can see it. But now it's crazy because all of it came full circle to where now I'm like prison famous. No matter
Yeah.
what prison I go to, whether it be way up in Nebraska. I ain't never been to Nebraska. The moment I walk inside the prison, they're like, yo, that's E.I. the King, that's E.I. the King. And they
Yeah.
like know my lyrics. And it's crazy how God redeems all of that.
Yeah.
And the reason why I say this, man, we share it all the time. I'm nobody, I'm jacked up, I'm nothing. None of that's like a spiritual flex. It's just an example of what God does with us when we genuinely surrender our everything unto him. Not only does he redeem and restore us, but he'll use us like he's using me as a template, as an example to anybody who's incarcerated. Man, what God's doing in me, he can do in anybody, and 10 times more. And he wants to. We just got to surrender our life unto him. We had a
Yeah.
prison event this past Saturday at Northwest Florida Reception Center at Washington. And it's crazy, man, to see like a whole rec yard of people, where I did years on a rec yard working out. But now to be able to go out back on the rec yard as a volunteer, as a chapel volunteer, and then
Mm.
go hang out again, and to, you know what I mean, hang out with these boys and to see them get encouraged and inspired, and ultimately God minister to them, and that God would use me, and that all that time, all that chaos, God would use all of it, and now it's full circle. It's crazy, and it still blows my mind, bro.
Yeah, I gotta link up with you, man. I gotta go in there and do a little work with you sometimes. It's down the road, you know what I mean?
We'd love to, bro. Be honored to have you, bro. We'd love to
Yeah,
have you, bro.
man.
They
Yeah,
would love to
that's
hear
what's
your
up.
story, especially how
Yeah,
you killing it on YouTube, man. They'd love to hear
yeah,
it.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Definitely, they could definitely make a path that direction for sure, man. You never know
Yeah,
what'll come your way in YouTube realm.
yeah,
All right, so
yeah.
2 years out, what do you got going on? Where can people find you if they want to hear more about your story, or just want to, help support you and what you got going on?
Yeah, of course, man. Like I already mentioned, man, my artist name is EI the King. Apple Music, Spotify, wherever you stream music, man, look me up, EI the King. But I also too, like yourself, I have a YouTube channel. It's
Mm-hmm.
called the Incarceration Podcast. And this is the setup right here. And all I do, man, is tell my prison story and my experiences throughout prison. But I kind of like unpack like the layers behind it, the politics and the why. So it's really personal from my experience and just talk about, prison stuff. I'm also too doing like a chronological story of my first day in prison throughout the entirety of all my years in prison. So it's super dope. That's on YouTube at EI the King. And yeah, I also have another YouTube channel for my artist, EI the King. And I have another podcast on there. It's called Let Me Talk, Bro. It's about music, it's about ministry, it's about my life. But mainly, man, check out the Incarceration Podcast on YouTube and
Yep.
my music as well. You got it, King.
Yeah, yeah, and I'm gonna tune in a little bit more than I was. I was kind of staying away from it until I heard your story a bit, but now I have, man, and it's a crazy, crazy little turn of events you had going on. Not once, twice, but 3 times going to prison. 9 piece on the last one. It's a hike. And ladies and gentlemen, I'm gonna leave all this stuff linked in the comment section description video if you want to check it out. Just keep doing what you're doing out there, man. You know what I mean? Keep
Yes, sir.
uploading.
Yes, sir.
Consistency is key, of course. And keep doing what you're doing for the Lord, man. You know?
That's real.
You can't
Hey, real
beat
quick
that.
too, man, before I forget, man, look, man, everybody, I got a song with Project Pat coming out in February. Project Pat does prison ministry too. Now he's been doing it for years now.
Yeah.
So he's following Jesus. So we got a song and it's specifically catered towards people who are incarcerated. The project is called Forever Convict. And the song's called FOF, and it's all about people doing time, man.
That's
And
what's
also, too, I
up,
did want to
man.
show, yeah, man. So I also too want to show this real quick, man. The prison memorabilia. Obviously, y'all see, man, the DOC card,
Yeah,
man.
yeah, yeah.
S25781. You know,
I've
you
had
got
so many Florida cats on. Seen that ID. I feel like I done time in Florida.
you know, you got the coffee cup,
Oh,
man, that did
the
years with
never
you.
washed
You know what I
coffee
mean?
mug.
Where you drink the yak at, you know what I mean? And you already know you got the canteen bag with the soups, man. Keeping all this. You know, it's crazy too. We put it in music videos now, and we do prison content.
Yeah,
The
I got my
photo
photo
album.
albums. I got that. Pretty cool. There's a little genre for that too on eBay, believe it or not. Prison memorabilia and stuff. So you
That's
might
crazy.
you might got yourself a couple million back there.
Ah,